Good morning, everybody. Today, we are going to be learning how to draw Sonic the Hedgehog. All right, everybody. So to get started with Sonic the Hedgehog, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a big circle in the middle of my paper. This is going to be for Sonic's head. So it's okay to make this circle nice and big. And again, at home, we want to make sure we're drawing lightly because some of these lines today we will be erasing. All right, now the next thing I want to do is I'm going to draw a second circle right underneath it, but this circle is going to be much smaller. Also, this circle should be touching this top circle. It shouldn't be sitting underneath it. They should be touching. Again, this circle should be much smaller. Now, once again, real quick, I'm going to draw a small plus sign in the middle of my bigger circle to help me show the left and the right side of his head and the top and the bottom. Now, I'm not going to draw a straight plus line or plus sign in the middle of his face. Instead, I'm going to curve my line. So this first line, I'm going to curve over to the side, over to the left. And this next one, I'm going to curve down. It's like a big curvy plus sign, almost like a sideways X. All right, next, let's think about where we're gonna put his arms. So I'm gonna have one arm coming up like this. So I'm gonna draw a big U shape coming out of the side of him. And let's draw a big circle here so we know where we're gonna put this hand. And then his second arm, is going to be resting on the side of his body. So we're going to come right up, kind of like it's coming out of his neck. We're going to come out, we're going to round it off, and we're going to come into his side. And then again, let's draw a second circle so we know where we're going to put his other hand later. All right, for the legs, now I'm going to make two lines, but they're going to come down at an angle and they're going to curve a little bit. This first one's going to come out of, almost like it's coming out of his hand. Notice it's going to curve in towards his body, but then it comes out a little bit at the end. This one will start right here, and we'll do the same exact line. We want it to curve just a little bit. All right, now for one leg, we're gonna make coming out this way. The other is gonna be coming down a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw kind of like a candy corn shape. So it's going to be kind of a rounded triangle, pointy part at the end. Almost, again, it's kind of like a candy corn. It's like a big oval with a point on one end. This one is going to be very similar. I'm going to start with kind of a circle shape though. And then I'll turn this into my candy corn. All right, now this is going to be our basic, kind of like our Sonic skeleton. Now we're going to start turning this into more of our Sonic character that we know. So first, let's start with his hair. So I'm going to come up right about here. Not too all the way on the top of his head, not on the side, kind of right in the middle. And I'm going to first make my first spike. It's going to curve. None of these hairlines we draw, all of them are going to be kind of triangle shaped, but none of them are going to be straight triangles. They're all going to curve a lot. Now this one, I'm going to stop right about before it gets to the middle of his head. Then I'm going to curve it back in. All right, again, notice my line isn't going straight into his head. It's curving again. Now, again, I'm going to make another one, another big curve, but this one's going to be a much taller, much farther out. You'll notice this one goes past his head just a little bit. Again, let's curve that back in. And now this one can be a little bit tricky. It's going to look like it's coming out straight, but again, we're going to curve it down. Now when we get to this point, we're going to curve it back in, but we're going to bring it down further on his head to about here. Then there's one more, I think, that we're going to see a little bit of right here. And we're going to have this kind of going through his hand. And we'll bring it right into his body, just like that. Now let's think about his ears. Let's come right up where we started his hair. Now, not where we started it, but a little higher than that. Right here, we're going to make a triangle shape coming out of his head. And it's going to go past his hairline. We're going to curve it just a little bit. And then we're going to bring it back in. And it's going to start just about where we started that curve for his first hair spike. All right, and in fact, we can even erase that little bit that's behind it. And then I'm going to make another triangle inside of this. I'm going to try and get it really close to this first side. And then the other side, it doesn't have to be too close. And then I'm going to curve it kind of with the round of a circle for the end of that triangle. Next, let's think about his other ear. Now that's going to be kind of on the opposite side of his head. So if we draw a little line, we know we wanted to start right about here. Again, we're going to curve it out a little bit. Now right before it starts to hit his fur for his spike, we're going to bring it down. But this part's a little tricky. I'm not going to have it touch the circle for his head. I'm just going to leave it right there, like it's just hanging. Next, I'm going to draw another triangle inside for kind of the inside of his ear. Again, I want it nice and close to the top half. Can give it a little more space on the bottom, and then curve to connect it. I think I want that a little bit bigger. Oop, but I don't want to connect it. All right, next, let's think about his face. So let's come over to this side. Now right over here where we have kind of this bottom corner, this bottom fourth of his head, we're going to make a little curve shape for where his mouth is. Now right after we make that curve, the round of it, we're going to come back up. And this is going to be for the shape of his eye. So this part looks straight, but I'm going to curve it a little bit at the end. I'm going to curve it and I'm going to bring it back in, and right as it starts to get towards the middle of my plus sign, it's going to flatten out a little bit. Now right where it meets the plus sign, we're going to bring it up, kind of a straight line here. This eye is not going to go as high as the other one. This one's going to be a lot lower. We're going to leave a little bit of a curve line at the end. So notice I'm not making that whole shape. There's a little bit of a part that hangs out. And we're going to bring that, and we're actually going to make it almost like we're giving them an eyebrow. So we're going to make a little curve right there. We'll make a little line right there coming out of his eye a little bit. All right, but back to here. Now back when I get to the line going across from my plus sign, then I'm gonna make that little curve shape for the other side of his mouth. And it's okay if it goes outside of my original circle. I just gotta make sure I bring it back in to his body. Now there is a line that kind of separates his eyes from his nose and his mouth. It can be a little bit tricky. Now we're gonna go back up here where we made that first curve. We're gonna come down a little bit. Notice it's a little bit below his eye. But as it starts to get past probably about this point, we're going to bring it up. We're going to curve that line up. And then once it gets past probably this line, we're going to curve it back down a little bit. And right before we want to make it curve back up into the cheek we made on his other side. So it's a weird kind of watermelon looking shape. All right, next let's think about his eyes. Now we're gonna have one eye right here in the corner. So I'm going to draw just a little oval. And his other eye is going to be much bigger. So we're going to draw a larger oval on this side. Now inside both of our ovals, in this one we're going to make a really tiny one, a really tiny oval towards the top, and we'll color black around it. That will be kind of like the light catcher in our eye. We're going to do the same thing on this side, but this oval is going to be a little bit bigger. And then again, we'll color black around it. All right, we're almost there. Next, let's think about his nose. Now we're going to come back to that plus sign. Now right where that the line for the left and the right side of his face is, to the left side I'm going to make an oval, a little tiny oval shape. This is going to be for his nose. And actually, I made it a little too low. So we really want it to be right underneath his eye line. So really it should be like right up here. And again, I'm going to just draw a little oval on that for a highlight on his nose, and we can color the rest in black. Then let's give him a little smile, a little crooked smile right up here in the corner of his face. All right, next, let's come back down to his arms and turn them from kind of sticks into more of a noodle shape. So right next to these lines, I'm going to draw another one to give it a little bit of thickness. Again, so it looks less like a stick arm and more like a noodle, really. Sonic doesn't have a lot of muscles. All right, and let's do the same thing for his legs. If you want, you can make his legs a little bit bigger towards the bottom than they are when they come out of his leg up top. All right. Next, let's think about that circle. Sonic does have another circle on his chest that's a slightly different color. So we're going to start the circle. We want it to get really close to this left side of his body, but not touching the sides. It's going to come down, and right before it gets to where it would touch his arm, we're going to wrap it around. So it's a lot closer to the left side of his body than to the right side. Oop, and forgot to give him a little tail. Sonic has a little tail coming out of this side of him. So we'll just do a little triangle shape. All right, now for Sonic's gloves. He does have two gloves on his hands, and on the ends of his gloves, he has this big kind of cuff, and he also has them on his shoes. So we're gonna draw those cuffs on real quick. So to do the cuff, I like to think about kind of an M. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna draw a little oval around his leg. So let's start with his legs. And next to that, I'm gonna draw a little M shape. So it's gonna come in, and then it's gonna come back out. It's gonna come in, and then it's gonna come back out. And then again, I'll kind of round that off. Now I wanna do that for both legs. So again, oval shape that goes around his leg, then in and back out. Bring it around, in and back out. Almost looks like a little hourglass where you tip the sand upside down. Now let's do the same thing for his arms. Now this one's gonna be a little bit different. We're gonna have a little M on this side, and on this side we're gonna have a much bigger M. Again, let's come to this side. We make that M shape, our oval. Just like that. Now let's finish up his hands. So both of his hands, they're kind of making a fist, and we're not, the way he's holding them, we don't really see his fingers. So what I'm gonna do on this hand is I'm gonna keep coming along this curve, and as I get to the top of it, I'm gonna curve in. Right next to that, I'm gonna make another line. Now this one's gonna come into my circle. It's gonna come around, and notice this is in front of my circle now, and I'm gonna kind of loop it back in. I'm gonna now keep the side of this circle and bring it back into my glove. So really when I go to trace later, there's gonna be a little part of this that I don't trace all the way. And I'm gonna give a little triangle kind of shape on the end for where his thumb would be kind of sticking out. Let's clean this up a little bit. Okay, now I'm gonna do something similar on the other side. So I'm gonna come down a little bit, but I'm gonna stop right here. And then again, coming from his body, I'm gonna make kind of another M shape. It's gonna curve in, and then it's gonna curve back out, and it's gonna come around this line I just made here. Almost like these are his fingers kind of wrapping around into it. I'm gonna curve in to finish that glove. I'll just clean this up just a little bit, make it a little easier to see. And his glove is actually behind his body. So there's a little part of it that gets cut off. All right, now we're almost there. We just gotta finish up his shoes. So again, we have this kind of candy corn shape. So I'm just gonna make mine a little bit bigger so it fits with his cuff on his shoe a little bit better. And his shoes are fairly simple. They're pointy, they're a little pointy at the end, they're round at the top, and there's a little stripe on it. So notice when I make these lines for my stripe, they are curving. I'm also going to put a little oval, teeny tiny one on the end. That's going to be a little light catcher where the light is kind of shining on his shoe. I'm going to do the same curve lines on the other side, but notice my curve is going the opposite way now. Again, a teeny tiny little oval for a light catcher on his shoe. Now I am ready to start tracing and erasing. So that, my friends, is Sonic. I will put this here if you want to match the same colors at home. You can pause it here. Special shout out to my buddy Drew in 3rd grade, who is one of the biggest Sonic fans I know. I hope you guys had fun today. Stay safe, keep drawing, and I'll see you next time.